There's a different kind of energy building in Los Angeles right now, and this time, it doesn't feel like another empty promise. It starts with the possibility of Justin Herbert finally playing in an offense that doesn't ask him to carry the entire world on his shoulders. It runs through a tight end room packed with options and reaches a secondary built on experience, speed, and hunger. I'm fired up, but I'm impatient too, because this roster has to turn all that talent into January results. Hit like, subscribe, and feel this moment with us. Today, 4 stories show why the Chargers might finally be ready to reach another level. For years, watching Justin Herbert has meant living with an almost brutal contradiction. The arm has always been there. The courage has always been there. So has his ability to create something when everything around him falls apart. But far too often, the offense seemed to demand perfection from Herbert before it ever gave him a chance to feel comfortable. That's why Mike McDaniel taking over as offensive coordinator hits me so hard. This is about giving Herbert a system that creates answers before the snap, eases the burden on every down, and turns extraordinary talent into sustainable production. Donte put that expectation into words on Good Morning Football. The former safety believes this could become the best offensive partnership Herbert has ever had, with enough potential to push him all the way into the MVP race. I completely understand why people are excited. McDaniel uses motion, tempo, a run game connected to play action, RPOs, timing routes, and crossers that can showcase Herbert's arm without forcing every play to become an emergency rescue mission. When a defense has to respect the same look for even half a second longer, the quarterback gets breathing room. For Herbert, that half second can separate pressure in his face from an explosive throw ripping across the field. But I don't want this conversation to end with an individual award. Chargers fans know how much this quarterback has already carried and how much national respect his talent deserves. The wound that truly needs to heal is somewhere else. In the Chargers' last 2 playoff appearances under Jim Harbaugh, the Greg Roman offense scored only 15 combined points in those 2 losses. That hurts because the regular season can build your reputation. January reveals whether an offense still has answers after the opponent has studied every tendency. McDaniel arrives with the responsibility of changing that story. He spent the previous 4 seasons as the Dolphins' head coach, and now he returns to the offensive architect role in Southern California. The mission isn't to redesign Herbert, it's to unleash everything that's already there. Give him easier throws when the defense allows them. Punish excessive aggression. Save the deep ball for the exact moment the coverage becomes vulnerable. A great offense doesn't force its quarterback to prove his brilliance on every series. It creates a sequence where the simple answer is available, the physical run game wears opponents down, and the explosive play arrives as a consequence. That's what has me buzzing. For the first time in a while, the conversation doesn't have to focus on how Herbert will survive the plan. It can focus on how much he can grow inside it. There's a massive difference between those 2 things. The real test arrives when the margin disappears. 3rd down, the red zone, the end of a game, and an opposing defense that has adjusted. If McDaniel can give Herbert control without taking away his aggression, Los Angeles won't just have an MVP candidate. It'll have an offense that can enter the playoffs believing it can dictate the game on its own terms. And when a quarterback at this level starts playing with solutions instead of carrying all that weight, the entire AFC better pay attention. McDaniel's plan becomes even more interesting when you look at the position that can connect all these ideas. The Chargers aren't building a tight end room where one player does everything while everybody else stands around waiting. David Njoku arrives as the proven weapon. Donte Jackson returns with expectations that he'll continue developing. Then there's Kolar, the most fascinating piece of this equation. A player who can block like a foundational part of the structure while uncovering a receiving dimension the NFL has barely seen. Daniel Popper of The Athletic summed up Kolar's situation in 2 words: untapped potential. That description stays with me because it isn't empty praise. It comes directly from the context around him. The Chargers made Kolar a priority in free agency, signing him to a 3-year, $24.3 million deal. He built his career on the back of his defensive prowess, $0.3 million deal. He built his reputation in Baltimore as a high-level run blocker, but he shared the room with Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. The targets simply never came. He has never caught more than 10 passes in a season, and his career high is 142 receiving yards. Those numbers look small by themselves. Remember who was playing ahead of him, and suddenly the entire picture changes. At Iowa State with Brock Purdy, Kolar had already shown he could be more than a big body moving defenders around. In the NFL, his willingness to block kept him valuable even without flashy receiving numbers. McDaniel can use that physical credibility to disguise exactly what the offense wants to do. If the defense reads run, Kolar can slip out on a short route. If the linebacker freezes on play action, a passing window opens. This is the detail that gets me fired up. We don't have to turn this room into a competition where only one player gets to win. Njoku, Gadsden, and Kolar can fill different roles and make the offense much harder to identify. Kolar has to justify the investment by handling the physical work and proving he can punish coverage too. McDaniel's challenge will be spreading those opportunities around without allowing the personnel grouping to reveal the play. I can absolutely picture Kolar blowing past his career highs, exactly as Popper projected, without needing some statistically ridiculous season. Give him consistent opportunities, a few catches from the same looks used to run the football, and chances in the red zone. His real value can appear when the defense doesn't know whether an alignment means power football, a quick pass, or a route breaking across the second level. That doesn't only create yards for Kolar, it creates cleaner throws for Herbert and far more uncomfortable decisions for the defense. This three-headed monster will only become special if every player forces the defense to prepare a different answer. Kolar is the variable that can transform depth into disguise. If that receiving potential finally appears, McDaniel gains a piece capable of making one play look like three different possibilities before the football is even snapped. On the other side of the ball, the emotion changes completely. The curiosity around a hidden offensive weapon turns into the relief of knowing the secondary has a veteran who already delivered when Los Angeles needed him. Donte Jackson arrived with the Chargers after a career shaped by speed, production, and a few injury interruptions. In 2025, though, he wasn't simply an experienced voice helping Cam Hart and Tarheeb Still. He played all 17 games, started 15, intercepted 4 passes, and helped steady a young group. For anyone who still viewed him as a temporary gamble, that season delivered a powerful response. Jackson was a 5-star recruit, rated by 247 Sports as the top athlete in his class. He stayed close to home at LSU and carried his track speed onto the football field. At the 2018 Combine, he ran the 40-yard dash in 4.31 seconds. Carolina drafted him in the second round, and he answered with 14 interceptions in 80 games. Then came Pittsburgh in 2024, when he set a career high with 5 interceptions in 15 games. Los Angeles found value where other people saw uncertainty, and the payoff arrived immediately. Jackson enters 2026 with a $6 million base salary and an $8.5 million cap hit as part of his 2-year, $13 million contract. Considering what he produced in 2025, that balance between cost and impact looks pretty attractive. But no celebration can ignore the calendar. He'll turn 31 during the season, and any decline in explosiveness can change a matchup in a hurry. That's where the Chargers' defense has to show maturity. Jackson can remain the most dependable corner in the room without being treated like someone who's immune to time. The depth provided by Cam Hart, Tarheeb Still, and the other options has to allow the veteran to play to his strengths instead of forcing him to cover every weakness around him. If he repeats last year's availability and ball production, his presence will be worth much more than 4 interceptions. It allows Chris O'Leary to vary his coverages, lets the younger corners attack matchups with confidence, and keeps the defense from panicking when an offense picks up the pace. Now I want your read, Chargers fans. Which part of Jackson's game gives you the most confidence in this secondary? His speed, his experience, or his ability to attack the football? For me, the key is balance. His body still has to respond, but the veteran has already proven that his presence isn't symbolic. He produces, and during a change at defensive coordinator, having a corner who stays comfortable under pressure can be the difference between an organized unit and one that's constantly scrambling to recover. If Donte Jackson brings the security of a veteran who has seen almost everything in this league, Tarheeb still brings that nervous excitement of discovering just how far a young player can climb. At Timber Creek in New Jersey, he played 3 sports, earned recognition as a defensive back, and arrived at Maryland as a 3-star prospect. Nothing was ever handed to him. Even so, he found meaningful snaps right away and began building the kind of resume that forces evaluators to take another look. Still made 20 tackles in only 4 games as a freshman in 2020. The next year, he moved into a starting role for 13 games and added 2 sacks and 3 tackles for loss. His first college interception arrived in 2022. Then he exploded in 2023 with 5 interceptions in only 10 games. Lance Zierlein's scouting report before the 2024 draft praised his zone processing, quick feet, anticipation, and ability to line up inside or outside. It also raised concerns about his size, length, and recovery speed. It painted the picture of a player who understood the game better than his draft position suggested, but still needed to prove he could handle the NFL's physical details. The Chargers bet on him in the 5th round, and the payoff came quickly. Still started 12 games as a rookie, intercepted 4 passes, and received Defensive Rookie of the Year votes. This was not a quiet adjustment period. He stepped onto the field ready to trust his eyes. When a day 3 pick produces like that, fans naturally imagine a development curve that only points upward. But his second season delivered a different kind of test. In 2025, he played 15 games and recorded 53 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and 7 pass breakups, but no interceptions and no sacks. I know some fans look at that 0 in the interception column and feel like he took a step backward. I can't reduce his season to that. Still remained a trusted coverage defender and carried responsibilities against the run in Jesse Minter's system. Sometimes growth in the NFL doesn't mean repeating the prettiest statistic. Sometimes it means consistently handling assignments that never reach the highlight reel. At the same time, he can't live forever on the impact of his rookie season. The next step has to appear in his consistency, contested throws, and ability to turn strong anticipation into extra possessions for Herbert. Still will carry a $1.075 million base salary in 2026, with a cap hit just over $1.168 million. A starter who can play inside and outside at that price changes the flexibility of the entire roster. He allows Joe Hortiz to invest elsewhere and gives O'Leary more freedom to disguise coverages. But contract value only becomes a true competitive advantage when the player delivers every Sunday. That's why this fourth story closes the arc with so much power. Herbert could be unlocked by McDaniel. Kolar could reveal a hidden layer of the offense. Jackson could keep the secondary steady with his experience. Still, though, represents the challenge connecting every one of them. The next step has to stop being imagined and start becoming visible. If he can bring back the ball production without losing his toughness against the run, the Chargers won't have simply hit on a 5th-round pick. They'll have a versatile, affordable, ascending corner on a defense that has to win big games. And honestly, that kind of internal development is exactly what separates an interesting roster from one that's truly ready to attack January. When I bring these 4 stories together, I don't see random updates. I see a team with a real chance to turn hope into something functional. Herbert getting a more quarterback-friendly offense, Kolar potentially expanding the disguise, Jackson providing stability, and still trying to turn development into impact. It's exciting because there are legitimate paths to a breakthrough, but that only raises the standard. Los Angeles has survived on potential for far too long. Now I want to see fit, consistency, and answers under pressure. Subscribe and tell me which of these 4 developments could change the season the most. I'm Tyler Bolt Dawson, and we'll stay right here, feeling every step forward and demanding proof from the Chargers.